Hey, this is you're gonna dub over this, right? If you need to, with
Sure,
the
we can do that.
voiceover.
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, talk to me. Say,
Okay.
okay, this was caught.
Oh, I see. So we caught this on Matagorda Island, and it was on the Colorado River Diversion Channel, about 300 yards from the mouth of the river, right by the Gulf of Mexico.
And don't forget to tell them it was raining cats and dogs, and we wet the seats of the Jeep coming back. But anyway, my son is going to show you how to fillet a redfish. Now this one's about what, 19 inches?
No. This is over 20 inches. It's
20
a keeper
inches.
redfish.
Okay, so here we go. I'm going to shut up, let him do his thing.
All right. Okay. So first thing I'm going to do. This is a dressed redfish. I've already taken the gills and the entrails out, and I did this while I was fishing to keep it from going bad. Okay, so because it was going to be about 30 minutes between when we caught it and put it on the table. So the first thing I'm going to do here is just kind of make a line that goes up towards the top of the fish, you know, and sometimes this is kind of a bony plate. You can start behind the fin here and just be real careful with it. I like just to have a good line, and it helps to have a really sharp knife. Be careful with your fingers. You know, that's a little bit of good meat, but it's all through the rib cage, so it doesn't matter. And I just kind of saw down until I get to the top, which you might see on the camera, right here along the top. And you notice there's two sides to the fins on the top. First thing I'm going to do here is, and I just be real careful with your fingers, you know, especially when you have a sharp knife, is I'm going to start right here along this line and just kind of use the tip of the knife to cut it a little bit. The idea here is that you're cutting along the rib cage, okay? And the first cut's the hardest because you got to pierce through all of the scales and such, right? So once I get that line started, then I'll go back through and just real gently run along the rib cage of the fish. And if you might be able to see in there with the video, I'm not wasting a lot of meat. I'm running right along the rib cage all the way to the back of the fish, okay? And at some point you'll get close enough to the other side where you can actually pierce through, okay? And the idea here is you just want to keep cutting it away from the rib cage. Helps to have some good light, you know. And once you get down to a certain point, there's no more meat at that point. You can cut through and kind of trim off a piece, and then just keep on working. Then go all the way through the fish, run it along the tail, almost to the back, but do not go all the way through. See how that is? On the front, just pull that slab away as you cut through from where you previously scored out through, you know, by the rib cage, and you can take the fillet and flip it over. And from here, I'm a right-handed, and I prefer to do it this way. You want to start here and kind of mash it down a little bit. You don't want to cut all the way through the skin, but just run your knife along the skin and saw it until you basically get the fillet off. And that leaves you with a nice clean fillet. You know,
That is pretty.
Yeah, there's a few bones in here that what I can do now is come back, I'll feel them with my fingers, and I can just kind of trim it away. That's just remnants of the rib cage, and that leaves you with a good boneless fillet, like that. If it's an older redfish, and this is good for a stock, so don't throw it away. I'm going to set it in a pan over here. Older redfishes have quite a big red line down the side, and you want to remove this material if you can. It helps to have a really sharp knife, and I just kind of scrape it back, you know, to the little. You lose a little bit of meat, but nothing that's important. And I'll make a good cut through that redness on both sides, like such, and it'll lift away from the fish. You can trim it off that way and just pull it out, because that just doesn't taste good. It really doesn't, and it doesn't look that attractive. So, you know, You're going to have some red on there, and don't worry too much about it. Just get what you can get off of it. As long as it's not too bad, it'll still taste great, and that's a good fillet right there. That'll taste real good.
Oh, yeah.
So what I like to do is I go through a lot of these, just put it to the side, kind of wrap it up, pat it down. We'll rinse it later, and now we're going to do the other side of the redfish. Look how clean that came out. We didn't waste any meat whatsoever here. Okay, this is all belly meat right here. So we did pretty good with that. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Sometimes it helps to scrape a little bit of the scales away so that you can get under it with your knife. The idea is to do this without chopping your finger off. But these are pretty tough fish, you know. It's got some pretty big scales, and so, you know, you might have to manhandle it a little bit. Just be really careful with the knife.
Well, Scott, tell the folks what you caught them on.
We caught this guy on some shrimp. They were selling them as bait shrimp, but they looked like table shrimp to me.
They're so big.
They were real big. They looked great. And apparently the shrimping in the Gulf has been pretty good lately. So I'm going to do the same thing here. Just kind of run along the rib cage until I get to the point where I can kind of cut through. And if you make a mistake and puncture through, don't freak out about it. Just keep on doing what you're doing and be careful, and we'll sort it out.
Now, usually the bones is will be your guide, right?
That's right. Bones.
It's pretty hard to cut through bones, so if you let that be your guide, you probably.
Right, and helps to have good light. And sometimes you have to work the knife a little bit to get over the bones. You can feel them with the knife, and
well, I know one thing. It's
Windex, yeah, that's what we need.
It's a little more complicated than skinning a catfish, isn't it?
Is it? Tough little guy right there. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to trim that off anyway, so I could actually just cut through there once I get through it. I'm not through it yet. There we go. Now I can come back and start on this side.
Just repeat the process, yeah.
Just repeat it. Okay. Now we got a nice little carcass for the crab trap.
There you go.
And definitely going to be rinsing some of this stuff. I'm going to trim off this lower rib cage and belly meat for the stock pot. And take off whatever fat you can find on the back. I don't like this red meat that much. There, it's pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse these real good in some water and pat them down.
Well, that's not bad. You did it in like 8 minutes and 42 seconds.
Yeah, some people use those electric knives, but I find that you end up with a lot more bones and you waste a lot of meat. And there's nothing like a pretty fillet when you're trying to cook, because...
Let me get a shot of your fillets there.
Here they are. I'm still working on cleaning them down, but...
Boy, that looks good.
It's a lot of meat for one fish that could easily feed 2 full-grown people.
Well, there you go, folks. That's my #1 son, Scott, who just showed you how to fillet a redfish. And I hope you come back and join us sometime soon. Have a nice day. Bye.